For USCFootball.com, I'm Jack Smith alongside Shotgun Spratling for instant analysis here on USC's campus as USC relieves defensive coordinator Alex Grinch of his duties today, as announced by the school. Shotgun, what's your instant reaction to Alex Grinch being fired?
I mean, we talked about it last night after the game, but it's something that had to happen. You know, obviously the way that they played recently, 6 straight games where they've given up at least 34 points, first time ever in the history of USC football. It only happened 2 times in the last 2 years, actually, that USC had 6 games in a season where they had given up 34 plus points. So obviously not trending in the right direction. You hope that a move like this for USC, hopefully, you know, just a different voice, different people running the show, maybe it sparks something for this group, because they need a spark coming off of last night where, you know, they played really, really well on offense, and it never felt like they had a chance in the second half because they could never get a stop. So, you know, it just felt like it was time for this, maybe a little bit even overdue, if not last season. If you're going to bring them back, you know, the way things went throughout this season, it felt like this was inevitable. So to get it done now, and now USC will have some time going forward to look at potential hires and whatnot. But for the rest of the season, you're hoping that USC, this creates a spark for them as they go up and face a really tough Oregon team next week.
And USC lost last night 52-42 to Washington in the Coliseum. They have already made some moves. They are elevating, you could say, Brian Odom and Shaun Nua. They will be co-interim defensive coordinators, and Taylor Mays, who was previously a defensive analyst and a former USC safety, is elevated to an official on-field assistant coach. He will be working with the safeties. What do you think of those moves for USC in the interim?
Yeah, it doesn't feel like much changes as far as with Taylor Mays. He was already working with Alex Grinch, working with the safeties. Now maybe his voice lends a little bit more credence. He gets to tell who's doing what. I doubt he'll be changing any lineups or anything like that. They're beating up at the safeties right now. Actually, it's all Max Williams actually leave late in the game. Jalen Smith was out for the second half. So we'll see, you know, what bodies they even have for Taylor Mays to work with there. But the interesting thing will be who actually is calling the plays. You know, is it going to be Shaun Nua? Is it going to be Brian Odom? How do their roles change from being position coaches to now being the coordinator? For Brian Odom, he's been up in the box all season for the last 2 seasons. Does he now come down to the field if he is calling plays? That'll be something of interest. Or maybe Shaun Nua is calling the plays on the field, and Brian Odom is you know, being the eye in the sky and calling. You know, they're coming up with calls that way. That'll be probably the most interesting thing. Anytime you do coordinators, it can be troublesome. But it is also, it gives those guys the opportunity to put that on their resume in the future, and if they can make some, you know, strides here, that's a positive for them as they go forth, because you never know if they're going to be retained. Anytime you lose a coordinator, you have to wonder if the rest of the staff will follow. If the new coordinator comes in, do they give them carte blanche, or you know what exactly happens there? One position coach kept, or all the positions coach? That all will be determined in the future going forward. But for those guys, this is an opportunity to have some little bit of coordinator experience. Now, Brian Odom has called the plays before, has called the plays against Oregon before. At Oklahoma, you know, he took over when Lincoln Riley left, took over as the defense coordinator for their bowl game against Oregon, and did pretty well in that game. So, you know, we'll see what happens with that, the dynamic there. But obviously, it was a move that needed to be made, and now we'll see how the rest of the coaching staff adapts to it.
We've seen reactions already on Twitter. USC fans, you know, excited to see the move that they have felt like needed to be made for a couple of years. We ran into one walking over here, you know, told him the news as he was telling us that he's a subscriber to the website, and he was jumping up and down with his baby on his back. That's what that firing meant to him. But, you know, it's always hard to call for someone's job. You never want to root for something like that. But as we mentioned last night, it's kind of been clear, and it was made especially clear yesterday, that USC needed to make some changes defensively. Lincoln Riley didn't want to talk about it last night, said, I'm not into the big picture questions, but it was clear it was a thought in his head and one he executed today.
Yeah, and there was a couple of small tidbits in his answers that made you think, okay, this is going to be reassessed, you know, quickly, but didn't necessarily know if it would happen during the season. You know, now the question is, you do the cost-benefit analysis of, all right, what is it worth to make a change now? Is it beneficial to make a change now, or beneficial to wait? Which is better? Which is the better option? And I think, you know, sometimes it can go either way. You know, we saw when USC fired Clay Helton, they said, we feel like we have enough talent that change at the top, you know, we can start performing better, and it didn't happen. You know, they were terrible that season. But you know, I was talking with a coach earlier from a different sport, and just, you know, he said, yeah, I think it's a beneficial move to make one during the season, because you can get that spark, you can get that different voice, and the players that put so much pressure on themselves then maybe this relieves some of it. Like, no one's going to expect us to do anything. So now you go out and you try to perform for a new coach, and maybe that pressure being off their back. I bumped into a player earlier today on campus, and he apologized to me. And I said, "What are you apologizing to me for?" But he just said sorry about it, and I was kind of baffled by that comment. The players are feeling that weight, that pressure, and they felt it all season, I feel like, and especially this last stretch. Losing 3 of their last 4 games, and now going to face a really good Oregon team. So they're going to have to do a lot of things to be able to beat Oregon. But now they got a different voice. Maybe that's a spark. Maybe there's a different energy, a different vibe around the team going forward, because they know they don't have anything to lose.
We figured the move was necessary, didn't really know if it was inevitable after the season, thought it maybe could happen during the season, but we really didn't know what to make of the situation. It was a move that many thought Lincoln Riley would not make, but he clearly made it this morning. We'll have a lot more tonight on Tunnel Vision. It'll be Shotgun, myself, and Ryan. That'll be live at 7 p.m. here on YouTube. Check out uscfootball.com for all of the breaking news content that's going up on the website. But anyways, for Shotgun Spratling, I'm Jack Smith. Check out uscfootball.com for more.